Welcome, Lightbringers, to our very first live stream for Massive Darkness Dungeons of Shadowreach. I'm David Waybright, your host. You may know me from Man vs. Meeple, but I have joined the CMON family to head up marketing, and today we are extremely excited to share with you a little bit of a sneak preview of what we have in store for you with the campaign. We've got the designers here, Alex and Marco, along with our producer, Nick, to talk all about the details, but not give too much away. But before we bring them out, let's take a look at a special treat, the trailer. I have to start the applause, everybody. We just take a second and appreciate how awesome it is that we all play board games, and get to see things like that. That is awesome. I have with me here today Nick, our producer, Alex, and Marco, the designers of the game. Nick, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing on the project?
Hey everyone, so I've been the lead producer for Massive Darkness Dungeons of Shadowreach. So I've been taking care of the sculpts, the graphic design, campaign page that's coming up really soon, and I'm very sure you guys would be very excited to see what we have installed on the actual page itself.
He's being very humble. He's done a lot on the project. But not to be outdone, we also have the designers, Alex and Marco. You guys want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about maybe the last things you've worked on? I know, Marco, you just did this on the Death May Die campaign, but I'm going to make you go through the list again.
Yeah, well, I've worked on Death May Die as a designer. I've also worked on Unk, on Project Elite, on Monolith, Gizmos, a lot of games. And I'm excited to be here again with Massive Darkness. It's one of my favorite designs, and it's very good to be here.
And he's not just saying that because his co-designer Alex is here, but Alex, do you want to let us know a little bit about what you've worked on other than this game, of course?
Okay. Hi, guys. How are you? Lately, I've been working a lot on Massive Darkness. I work on Massive Darkness Hellscape. It took a lot of time for me, but I have worked on God of War. That was my last Kickstarter. And after that, I was back to Massive Darkness Dungeons of Shadowreach again. So lately, this has been my main project.
Nice. And for those of you out there who don't know, Massive Darkness 2 was a refinement of Massive Darkness, the original. And this one, Dungeons of Shadowreach, builds on that. Do you guys, the designers, want to talk a little bit about that in terms of what that means for this game and the future of Massive Darkness?
Yeah. So Massive Darkness 1, it I mean, the first time we were the developers of Massive Darkness 1. Important to mention that. And we were very attached to the game. So when CMON started talking about like continuing the game, we are very excited because we had some ideas on how to improve the game. Okay, and luckily for us, we were given the opportunity to actually improve the game, to actually add our ideas into the game, and that was like a big jump from Massive Darkness 1 to Massive Darkness 2, in which we introduced like the asymmetric classes, which is probably one of the key features of the game. We were like very close to the community because we were Massive Darkness players as well, and we knew what to improve, what to actually add to the game. So there was a big jump. There was a lot of work that we put on Massive Darkness Hellscape. And Massive Darkness Hellscape, when it was released, it was like very welcomed from the community. Like we had very good reviews of that. So of course, like for Massive Darkness Shadowreach, we decided to change the setup a little bit. We decided to, of course, add new things, new content, but we kept like as Massive Darkness players, me myself, I have played the campaign before releasing it, when I was like actually designing it, and after releasing I play by myself, solo playing, because I kind of like the game, as you can see. And so we kept track of the community and the things that we will see. We'll talk about this later, to keep improving the game. So Massive Darkness Shadowreach is not just an addition to, we're not just continuing adding content to the game, but we are also improving a few things. Yes.
Nice. You heard it here first, everybody. The designer of the game likes his game. Regarding the setting, Marco, if you could talk to this a little bit. I know that in Massive Darkness 2, we kind of explored, heaven and hell, if you will, inspired by some very, very popular ARPGs out there in the video game space. But given that's where we were, where are we going now with Dungeons of Shadowreach?
Yeah, so now we're going like back to this fantasy setting that we had on Massive Darkness 1, with exploring dungeons, and we have this classic monsters, like we have bugbears, we have a big basilisk, this kind of classic fantasy, not hell and heaven like we had in Hellscape, right? And we decided that for that, one good idea was to go below the surface, like the real dungeons of the world. Like this is a city that's all below the ground, so you can see that there are mushrooms everywhere. There are like the shadow is really there, and we decided to explore this new fantasy setting instead of keeping going with this hell and heaven thing that we had in Hellscape.
Yeah, and the fantasy setting, I think, goes hand in hand with the fact that the campaign's also going to have RPG books available as well that are 5e compatible, because
Yes.
It's definitely inspired by some of those sorts of things. In terms of the naming convention, we had Massive Darkness, we had Massive Darkness 2. This isn't called Massive Darkness 3. So can you guys speak to sort of what we're doing there and where we're going with Massive Darkness, given that it's now a sort of core system?
Yeah, so we decided that the system that we introduced in Massive Darkness 2 is the system that people like, is the system that people want to have more content of. So Massive Darkness now is just Massive Darkness. It's the system that is already there. It already works. We're just adding more content to that system. That's why it's just Massive Darkness from now on.
Yeah, so which what that means to all of you out there is this is fully compatible with everything you might already have from Massive Darkness 2 and vice versa. So it's going to be a, no pun intended, massive amount of content for anyone who's already a fan of Massive Darkness, but also a great jumping off point because this is a standalone game, right?
Yeah, it's a standalone. You
Yeah.
can start from here.
So yeah, let's take a look at this. Now, if you've seen our preview page, you've obviously seen some of this, but this is some of the new components, and I promise you'll see a little bit more as we get going here. One of the things we wanted to transition to really quickly so you could see what's new in the game are some of the new mechanics. We'll also talk about the hero classes, some of the enemies, but let's start with the mechanics. And one of the things that I think people asked for in the past is a way to ratchet things up. And speaking of people from the past, I do want to point out the slide you're seeing right now on screen is the returning backer gift. If you haven't seen this, soak it in right now because it is an awesome miniature. And guys, you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time Massive Darkness has seen this effect on miniatures, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it is awesome. So if you were a backer of Massive Darkness 1 or 2, if you're a returning backer coming to get this one, you will be entitled to get this backer gift if you're returning. So if you haven't followed already, go to the GameFound page and do so. But like I said, we want to move on and talk about some of those new mechanics. Some of them are the difficulty. We've introduced a few different things. And Marco, I think you're going to speak to most of this in terms of how you can ratchet up the difficulty. I, for one, don't need any more difficulty. I like the game just as it is in terms of difficulty. But let us know what's going on with the difficulty scaling.
Yeah, so this was one of the feedbacks from the players. I know that a lot of players really like the game as it is, just like David, and we didn't want to change the game, the core system. So what we did was we added some modules. So we have some of those modules that you can add to the game to ramp up the difficulty to the level that you want. You have this modularity that similar with what we do in other games, like in Death May Die or Marvel United. You have these modules that you can add to the game to make it more difficult if you want it. Yeah. So
could we move on to that next slide?
Okay.
One step further. There you go. There we go.
Okay. So one of the modules that we have, the Dread Encounters doors, is a set of door cards that are always hard. They always do something to you. They add a new challenge. They do something bad to the party. In the regular door card, we had like this, you could get something good from this, you could get something bad. For the Dread Encounters, it's always something bad. And sometimes new monsters appear, sometimes something like you take fire or frost. So you can choose to add these doors, and you know that it will be more difficult to go through the dungeon to open doors, and stuff can happen to you. It's the bad stuff, and of course you can also just shuffle these cards with the regular cards if you want just more variety, but the idea is that if you want something more, the doors to be more difficult, you can add these doors to your game.
Yeah, let us know in the comments, everyone, who's going to add those doors in their first game, because I want to know all the masochists out there.
The next slide. This is the darkness track. So just to clarify here, you have the darkness track on the left. This one is just the regular darkness track from the previous game, the Hellscape game. It's just with new graphics, but it's exactly the same in terms of mechanics. But we are adding a new one. It's the Shadow Nightmare track, that if you want a more difficult experience, you can add it, and it will be always more. You can see that, for example, the roaming monster that we use it to spawn on round 3, it spawns on round 2. So it ramps up the difficulty, and sometimes they have some icons there that say, this monster summons and already activate, or sometimes you summon a monster that's one level higher than you are right now. So if you're level 1, it actually spawns from level 3-4 instead of level 1-2. I'm still talking about the darkness track. Can go. Is it possible to go back?
Yeah.
Thank you. And of course, at the end of the track, you can see that big school there. It's because if you're using that track, when it reaches that school, it's game over. So you have also this time limit to finish the quest. So you can just go around and grab loot and do nothing. You have to be quick and end the game quick, So there's this new darkness track with new icons and things that happen that is more difficult than the regular track.
And the next thing that we took a sneak peek at a second ago were the enhanced monsters, right?
Exactly. So we have 4 of those, and you can add them to the game to make the monsters more difficult. You know, they also have more attack, they can have more defense, or even when a enemy is killed, you usually grab the item, you know. And then if you play the cursed weapons challenge, you roll a die and the weapon can break, so you don't get the weapon from the monster. So it's harder. Yeah.
Very cool and thematic, but man, all that sounds very, very painful. I have to ask both of you, as you're play testing this and playing around when you were designing it, how often have you played with all of the ratcheted up difficulty?
Yeah, we had to play with them all to make sure that they work, you know. But most of the testing, I have to give this shout out here, is from our development team. We have a big development team, so I hope I don't forget anyone, but we had like Rodrigo Soneso, Toivon Glenn, Kelly Cruz, Felipe Galeno, Patrick Fernandes, Leo Almeida, Rafael Assaf, and Fernando Monteiro. And they did a lot of testing for this and to make sure that everything was at the right level of balancing. And of course, we had to test with everything to see if it's possible. And yes, you have these 4 enhanced monsters challenges that you can add in however you want. You can add all 4, you can add only 1, you can add together with the darkness track, you can add together with the dark cards, you can do however you want to make the game more difficult.
Nice.
Me particularly, I really like this improvement. When I was talking like before that we kept track of the community, one of the things that people really asked was like, can you make it harder? And yeah, and like we had this discussion during Hellscape, but Hellscape we were like adding a lot of things to the game, and actually we're aiming for like a dungeon crawler which was like more like rolling dice and relaxing there, you know. But we ended up like hitting a public that actually wanted more of a challenge of the game, like wanted to I don't know, like be more punished. I don't know why, but so we ended up like creating, and I was like, Marco, how can we make like how can we aim for the right level of difficulty? And we by studying the community, we're like, there are people that want to like really burn their brains to play the game, and there are people that don't want to sit down, just want to sit down and relax. So making it modular, we can take all this range, you know, like take all the people that want to play, they can choose their difficulty.
Interesting. There's one more thing that we wanted to talk about here, and that is the conditions. I want to know, there's a couple new conditions. Who came up with these?
Alex.
I really like Poison and Venom, so I keep adding them to my games, like every time I get the opportunity, and creating like scenarios that focus on that. I don't know. I really think it's a cool mechanic because it's immersive and it's time pressuring.
Yeah.
And honestly, I do feel that we wanted to add a new layer of complexity to this game, and I do feel that adding new condition is the right thing. So since we're talking of a setting that has a lot of mushrooms and it's underground, we do felt that Venom fits really well the game. And for Hellscape, we were already thinking about adding stun. So we add to this game now. We still have like Fire and Frost, okay? But we do felt that stun and Venom fit this setting better, okay? So mechanically speaking, stun, it's similar to freeze, okay? But when you get the stun, the start of your turn, you're gonna roll a die, and a monster die, and there is a chance you will actually lose an action, but you can only take damage and keep your turn going, okay, normally. So the stun is a little bit more punishing, and you can see that we are driving the design this way. The stun is a little bit more punishing than the frost, the freeze condition was before. And following the same line, Venom is Venom is, I don't know, like similar to the fire, but it does not go away. So what happened with the Venom is that you take the damage and then you roll the die to see if you get rid of this token. If you don't, you keep the Venom
Yeah.
into next round. Keep taking damage of it until you get rid of that. Marco, do you want to say something? Like, of course, less things like, of course, you can get rid of the Venom, I guess, by healing.
Yeah, you can get rid of them by healing, just like fire. Venom and fire you can get away with them with the healing. But the main difference is that fire, you roll the dice to see how much wounds you get, and you remove the fire. For Venom, you always take damage. You always take one wound, and then you roll to see if you keep the Venom or if you discard it. That's it.
That's cool. I'll be curious too when we start talking about the character classes. I'm going to ask you a question whether or not there's a particular character who might help against Venom. I'm guessing there might be, but I'm not sure. But moving on, I do want to talk about some of the baddies, some of the monsters, some of the mobs that are going to be doing these things, the stunning and the poisoning. So let's take a look at the first one here. And we've just got a few for you. But who wants to tell us about the bugbears?
Okay, so the bugbears, it's a classic one, right? In the medieval fantasy setting. Of course, we went for the bugbears. So they are really present on the table. They have a really immersive miniature. We always like that. Like Massive Darkness is really strong when you talk about looking at the table and feeling the game going on and all these like RPG things. So the bugbears are a mob. Okay, people who played Hellscape know the difference between mob and roaming monsters. We'll presenting some roaming monsters a little bit later, but mobs are a group of creatures. They have a leader and they have minions. Okay, they're the ones that carry weapons, etc. Talking about like specifically about the bugbears, they are kind of leaders of the dungeon. So their special ability, each monster has a slightly different special ability, of course, when the right dice is rolled, when the right icon appears. And the bugbears, they can move other miniatures in the dungeon, and they create like they make it more, the dungeon more alive. That's why we choose to show the bugbears, because I really like them, how they make the dungeon more livid.
Yeah, that's exciting. Seeing more things moving around just from some of the mobs out there. We had a question I just want to touch on before we get to the questions, and I want to remind everyone we will have some time at the end where we answer a few of the questions that you share in the comments, but I want to just interject with this one. Joe Mitchell asked, and I think I know the answer to this, but will there be cards for level 6 through 10 for the new monsters?
So, just like we did on Massive Darkness Hellscape, we do have a expansion, which is in the campaign. There will be like, we already saw the image like really fast, but there will be like available from the day one. Okay, and that's the campaign. So during that's actually a good thing to talk about. So we have like the core box, which is a one-shot experience. You open the box, you play like one scenario, you feel the experience of going through level 1 to 5, which is the max level on the one-shot experience, and that's it. That's the end. Like you have like you have the whole content in like 1 or 2 hours of gameplay. You see, but then we have the Underspire, right? That's the name of the box. That's the campaign. That's like similar to Heavenfall for Hellscape. Okay, so this brings the campaign in which we'll be playing like 8, I guess like 8 out of 13, 14 scenarios. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, okay. And you can choose, of course, your decisions will impact the gameplay. And there you will see you can get from level 1 to level 10. Okay, so we stretch the experience a little bit further. And so I guess the answer is yes, in the Underspire box.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I assume a lot of you have played Massive Darkness, but that campaign mode is something that sort of stretches things out, that really kind of makes really underscores the fact that this feels like an RPG in a box. You can just play like a one shot by playing a scenario by itself, but we have that Underspire box that also lets you kind of stretches things out and kind of like paces the entire experience out over many, many sessions. So who's next?
Add, David,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just wanted to add about the Underspire. I think the devs did a very amazing job with the quest design. I don't want to spoil it too much. You have to experience it for yourself. But the end few quests are pretty amazing.
Nick, you're such a tease. But that's what we're doing here. So let's take a look at the next mob here.
Okay, Myconids. So I believe those are my favorites. One of my favorites,
because of the poison.
We'll be talking about my favorite one at the end. I know already, but those are one of my favorites because their special ability involves venom. Okay, but not just because of that. It's I believe this is the creature that brings the whole setting that we are creating alive. So when we are designing, and of course Master Darkness, but people who played before, they know that we have a mechanic of light and shadow. Okay, so in Hellscape there was like a illuminated chambers, etc. We always have to decide like what will bring light and what will be the shadow zones. So and that's for the setting. Okay, so we decided that these like big green mushrooms will be the light of the game. The zones with the big mushrooms, they are the light zones of the game. And I believe the Myconids are these mushrooms but alive. I think they are the most characteristics for the setting, for the setting we are working on right now.
So these are the ones that you're going to be rejoicing when they come out onto the table, while most players will be lamenting the fact that they're getting poisoned, right?
Yes.
Got it. The next one, I think, also has poison involved, and they're also, for me, the creepiest. I'm not a big spider fan, but tell us about the Spiderkin.
Okay. So this is like a half human, half spider, if I can say that. Just like, I believe the spider lost a lot of its humanity, as we can see in the miniature. Oh, Nicholas, show the miniature. Nice.
Oh, yeah, Nicholas is lucky enough to have the miniatures on hand. So let's all be jealous as he rotates them in front of our faces.
Yeah. So we wanted to give. So okay, let's first like dive a little bit into roaming monsters. So as I was saying, mobs are groups of creatures. They are a gang, but the roaming monsters, they are lone creatures that roam the dungeon, just like that their name suggests. And this is a roaming monster. Okay, the Spiderkin warrior. And for the roaming monsters, we can give them a slightly unique and different way of playing, of acting. So different from mobs. All the mobs, they have two actions. They either move or attack. The Spiderkin or the roaming monsters are a little bit more complex. So what I mean is that they follow a script, as you can see. So like if the Spider Warrior, if there's this scenario, the Spider Warrior does one thing. If there's like another thing going on, they do this other thing, So for the Spider Warrior, for example, we try to give the feeling of the Spiderkin like getting the players and involve them into a, how do you say that in English? Like a
web.
The web, perfect. So they create like a web out of the heroes, so the Spiderkin can eat later. And that's like why we added one of the intentions of adding the stun token, is because like the spider can grab you and actually make you not move, like keep you there. And the Spiderkin is the one that actually use both of the new condition tokens that we are adding. So the Spiderkin can either stun you, can grab you, and poison you. It's, I think, one of the hardest roaming monsters we made, but I really like it.
Yeah, and I see it says add 2 poison there. So Obviously, the poison does stack. I have a question, though, just as a gamer. I
Yes,
may be
yes.
asking
Okay.
for everybody. I assume if you roll correctly, all of the poison goes away, or do you have to roll per poison?
You have to roll for each token to go away. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And is it
Yeah.
okay if I house rule and not allow the spiders in my game?
As long as
Okay.
you don't tell us, that's fine.
All right, I won't. Act like I didn't say that.
Okay.
All right, the next one we want to move on to is the basilisk. Who wants to
Okay.
tackle this one? This one doesn't have any poison, but who can tell us about this?
Do you want to talk a little bit of Basilisk, Marco?
Oh yeah, I can talk about it. It has the frost token that it's also there, just like fire and frost is still there in the game. And what it does that if there's more than one hero, it freezes everyone. So you have to be very careful if you're playing against him, that you're not like everyone around him. So if you go with everyone next to him, he will freeze everyone and everyone will lose an action. So you have to be very careful about that. So it's just like a basilisk. It can petrify you, like the frost tokens is meaning that he petrifies people around him.
Yeah, and just to endorse my friend Marco here, talking about the actually the miniature, the sculpt. So as you can see, we decided to take a different approach on the basilisk, and we were more inspired by a EO, you know. So I think it's cool, like when we get like an inspiration from the classic medieval fantasy, but we take like a tweak, you know. We add a twist to the monster, and I really like this miniature. Like it's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's a chunky miniature for sure. However, the chunkiest of miniatures I think we're going to show today is there's the basilisk right there.
There's the basilisk. Yeah.
Nicholas, do you have all the miniatures? I'm very jealous.
Most of them from the call box.
But the last one we want to talk about is the giant sandworm. This is the guy that you got a glimpse of in the trailer. But who wants to tell us about this boss? Oh, and there's just a piece of it.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay, so that's my favorite one, of course. It's a boss fight. So again, like we had the mobs, we had the Roman monsters, and we have the bosses. Okay, so boss are a specific fight in which we'll be fighting a like really big monsters. The bosses, they have like scenarios that are completely dedicated to them. So what I really like about the Giant Shadow War is that it's 3 miniatures in one. So which gives us, it's really immersive because you have the feeling that the different parts of the body of the giant shadow worm, they kind of move in a way because of the way we design it, that it gives us the feeling that the worm is like really above you and it's on the surface sometime. It's scary, it's threatening, and different from all other boss fights that we had before on Hellscape. The giant shadow worm, it's alive. We always have like a quest for one-shot scenarios. We always have like a quest, and then you face the boss. Okay, so different from the other ones, the shadow worm is there, it's doing things, and it's alive while you're still like trying to solve the quest, and you have to deal with the shadow worm and the quest at the same time. As you can see, like everything we're doing for this game is trying to make it a little bit harder. Okay, so the giant shadow worm, it's not different from the other things we're doing.
Yeah, so for all of you out there who wanted more difficulty, I hope you're happy, because it sounds like the designers are giving it to you for sure. But we do have some heroes to combat all of that difficulty, and this is probably the point where everyone's been waiting for. This is my personal favorite part of this game, is when you play these characters. And again, if you've never played Massive Darkness 2, playing each hero class feels like its own game. I mean, it truly does feel like even a mini game that you're playing. And I can guarantee you, when you're playing for the first time, and you'll be jealous for sure of another player who's playing a different class, and you're like, wait a minute, how are you doing that? It is a really interesting experience. So what's the first class that we want to take a look at? The cleric.
Marco, do you want to talk about the 3 starting ones?
I can talk about the first 3. So the cleric, okay, it's a classic cleric, and at the start of the game, you got to choose one of the gods that he's going to follow. So you can choose the Spirit, Order, or Death cards, and these will shape your game. So it's like you have 3 options for this class, and it comes with a set of 5 cards that you place in this dashboard. And the more to the right the card is, the more powerful it is, because they have like this X in the text, and at the rightmost slot, the X is 2, and if it's on the leftmost slot, you can even use it. So you have to wait for it to go to the rightmost slot, so you can have the most powerful effect of the card. When you use the card, it goes to the leftmost slot, and all the other cards slide. So as you use the cards, they slide to the right, and they get more powerful. So you have to choose the order so that you always get the most powerful effect. You always spend mana to use these cards, and they go around like that, like a mini, how do you say that, the cooldown, that you are waiting for it to be powerful again. Of course, it has some skills that allows the cleric to change the order and stuff like that. And since it has 3 options of gods, it has like slight different options each game you play,
Yeah, that is really cool. I have to say, it's interesting to see the idea of cooldown effects come from ARPGs into other board games even. There are some other traditional Euro-y board games that have used similar mechanics to this. And then to finally come to Massive Darkness 2, I really like to see this sort of Arc Nova-ish sort of mechanic.
Yes.
The next one we want to talk about is probably one of the more interesting and intricate, and this is going to take a minute to describe. It's the Chronomancer.
Yes, this is my favorite one. It has a couple of things to talk about. So first, it can, since it's a Chronomancer, it messes with time, and it can activate anytime during the turn. So it can use their action. He still has only 3 actions, but the actions can be done between other players' actions. So let's say the warrior takes an action, the Chronomancer goes there and takes his action, then the warrior finishes the turn, and the Chronomancer can act again if they want. So this is a big thing. It's very different from other classes because of that. And another thing that it has is the real-time phase. So I'm really big fan of real-time mechanics, and we were thinking, how can we add real-time into Massive Darkness? Is this even possible? Because it's a turn-based game, essentially. So what we did, we added this real-time phase that the Chronomancer rolls the regular yellow dice from the game, and it can move the tokens in his amulet using the faces of the die. And he has like this 1 minute to move as fast as he can to grab these bonuses. They get the tokens that he can use also anytime in the turn to give bonus to other characters. You can even see in the trailer that the Chronomancer is giving bonus to other heroes if you pay attention. So it's because of that. He's a really support class that can give bonus to other players, but the amount of bonuses that he can access is based on this real-time phase at the beginning of the round, where he can, if he's fast enough, he can get a lot of tokens and these time spell cards that are really powerful if they reach the end of the center of the amulet there. And that's it. I'm really excited about this one. It's one of my favorites. And go ahead.
Yeah, I want to point out to everybody out there, if you play a lot of board games, some of you like real time, some of you don't. I do want to tell you, I've traditionally am not a real time fan like Marco is. However, I want to point out a couple things about this class. When you're doing that real time phase, all of the other players are also able to participate, right? There is something they're able to
Yes.
do, because as the Chronomancer gets kind of clogged up and locked up with the dice, they're able to help and assist and unlock the dice, right?
Yes. The Chronomancer rolls the yellow dice to move around, and when they roll a blank face, they cannot roll that the die again until someone unlocks that die for him. So the other players can roll the blue dice, the ones with the shields, to unlock that dice for him. Of course, he can do that himself, but if the other players are paying attention and rolling, it's faster. So it's actually better if the other players are paying attention and helping him in this phase, so he can go faster and not have to roll the blue dice himself. So the other players do that for him, and that really helps him.
Right. And it is just 1 minute. And you have to keep in
Yes.
mind, too, that they're not taking their own full turn. So they're actually helping the rest of the hero phase kind of move along, because they're able to jump in and help kind of solve the puzzles a little bit more flexibly that present themselves on the table, which I'm very excited to try this one myself. But we've got to move on and talk about all of them. The next one is the Warrior. This one's probably a little bit more straightforward, but still has some interesting mechanics going on.
We have this thing about we have some straightforward classes for people that are just starting and want to a pretty straightforward experience, and the Warrior is one of them. We have here that he can choose to have a lot of weapons and choose how to use them. They have these different styles that it can use. So you can have like these one-handed weapons, two-handed melee weapons, or ranged weapons, or even using shields to attack. We have this mechanic for the Warrior where he can use the shields as weapons as well. And depending on which style you're using to attack, you improve your style and gain more bonuses when using that style, and you can choose them. And one thing that's really cool about him is that he can have like up to 5 extra weapons attached to his dashboard that he doesn't need to spend an action to change. So he can just spend a mana and re-equip to the style that he wants, so he can change styles really fast, not needing to spend an action. And you can choose to either be flexible and use different styles, or focus on a single style and go to the end of this track and getting the ultimate power for this style.
Yeah, so all you players out there who have played video games like Skyrim or other things like that, where you're actually putting in the investment of doing the things literally to improve your skills, would you say this is going to give a little bit of that experience? Or the more you do something,
exactly.
the better you get? Yeah. The next one is also a pretty straightforward class, but it sounds like a ton of fun, and it's the Assassin.
Okay, let me jump in for that one. So again, as Marco was saying, there are a few classes that bring the player more complexity, but there are classes that are like straightforward, just be happy and roll dice, So the Assassin is driven in this direction. The Assassin comes with a new die, okay? And we wanted to have a class, like we really like the shadow icon and the shadow mechanic we created and the shadow die. So we wanted to have a class more that, I don't know, like explore more the shadow mechanic in this game. So that's how we came to the Assassin. And he's really, really strong in the shadow. He's just like a guy in the light. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that he rolls the Assassin die, which is a better shadow die in the shadow. So in the shadow, he will be rolling like his unique die, and more than that, this die, it has a exploding die mechanic. Okay, which everyone loves. And more than that, the Assassin can actually keep, as you can see, like in the image, we are adding these shadow tokens, shadow icon tokens, which means the Assassin, if he rolls at any time a shadow icon, he can keep these tokens and use the shadow ability when he thinks best. And another addition is that the Assassin has like a different more options for using the shadow icon. So as you can see, every assassin hero comes with like 2 shadow abilities, different from all other heroes we have.
Yeah, it is awesome. And I have to pause and just tell you, just as a gamer myself, the degree to which you guys weave in the theme with the mechanics is the mechanics are amazing. Like this one feels everything you just said is incredibly logical about what an assassin would be and how it works with the mechanics. Same with the Chronomancer. So bravo on that. The next one we wanted to talk about, Alex, I think you're going to talk about this one too. This one leans more on the complex side again. This is the Hunter.
I mean, so the Hunter, right? We were thinking about like every time. So how we design classes, there are like 2 ways in which we can design a class. How we think about it, and of course, like designing the classes is where we put like most of the effort and like time during design, of course. And we're always like, we either take like some inspiration from a game I played with Marco, and we're like, oh, this could be like a mini game in Massive Darkness, or we take one of the rules of the game and break it. Okay, so the Hunter, like, it goes either way. So what about like controlling 2 characters in one? Like, what about playing with 2 miniatures but you are only 1 player? And that's where the Hunter enters there. So like in medieval fantasy games, hunters have a pet. They usually have a pet, and pets are really cool. That's it, you know. So why not like focusing on that and make the hunter mechanics the having the pet? So for the hunter, at the start of the game, the hunter can choose from 2 options, which is a giant groundhog or a Komodo dragon. And the pets, they come with their own status, skills, abilities. They roll the shadow die. We wanted to make as close as possible. They are not a companion. They are almost a hero, you know, another hero you play with. So of course, during design and after development, and I want to thank my development team again, because it was like a really hard challenge to to actually, how can you not make it overpowered? Like, how can a player play 2 heroes and not be overpowered? So they solve it by making the actions stronger. But when you take one action, you can divide between like the pet and the hero. Like when you're moving, you can move a little bit the hero and a little bit the pet. When you attack, you sort of decide, but there are skills that can make you attack along with the pet, like coordination. I really like the Hunter. Hunter was one of my favorite classes, definitely.
Yeah, this is really, really cool as well. And I think I'm catching on to your design philosophy, Alex. It's basically, is it cool? Like exploding dice, you said? Cool. Pets? Cool. Is that basically your is that the design process for you?
Exactly.
Everything else just falls into place.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want from a game? To be cool.
Exactly.
So that's like straightforward. It's really simple to design games. Just make it cool, you know?
All right. The last very cool class that we have to talk about is the herbalist. Alex, what can you tell us about the herbalist and how it works?
Okay. So just like Marco really loves real time, I really like Euro games. And this class is really inspired by that farming games in which like you sow, you plant, and then you harvest, you know. So the herbalist is very inspired by these games. You will collect we really wanted a class that can get their resources from the dungeon and not actually start with the resources. And that's the herbalist. He can grab a few resources from the dungeon, which are the herbs, and they can plant it on the floating bases that they have around it. And each round, the plants, they grow and they can harvest it. So after that, after they harvest the herbs, they can create unique and really strong potions. So at the same time as they are herb specialists. They are kind of alchemists and potion specialists, and they have like unique potions. They start the game without knowing the combinations. So as they play the game, they find which herbs combined create each one of their unique potions, and they can use these potions or actually give to an ally, like improving the party. They are really support-driven class, and I really like to design classes that are not just like this class can attack, this class kill monsters. They're more like about I will make sure the party is doing fine, and that's one of those classes, you know.
Yeah, it's just staggering to me personally how many classes you've been able to come up with between this and Massive Darkness 2. And I'm sure what the future holds. It's really amazing that you've come up with so many different ones that have so much flavor. So I can't wait to see more. But yeah, those are the hero classes for Dungeons of Shadowreach. We have a couple more things to cover that we just want to tease a little bit before we go to some sort of live Q&A. One of those, and this is a big one, is the RPG books for tabletop that I mentioned earlier. We've got in this campaign 2 books on offer that are going to effectively give you a campaign experience with 5e rules in the Massive Darkness setting and universe, along with the bestiary that you can use for all of the monsters from Massive Darkness with 5e rules. So imagine just taking this setting, doing everything that you'd want to do in a 5e campaign, but doing it in the Massive Darkness universe. But also, it uses a lot of things that you can use in your own setting. So it just provides a little bit more for any campaign or any tabletop RPG experience that you want to explore. I've seen the pages. It's really amazing looking. And I have to tell you, what's inside the box for the core game is also something you can use along with your RPG. So obviously, you're going to have all the miniatures for these monsters. You're going to have the miniatures for these heroes. So if you have these books along with the games, you're going to have everything you need for a true sort of RPG experience that sort of expands the Massive Darkness experience overall. For those of you who are interested in that. And for those of you who have always been interested in the sort of tabletop RPG, this might be a great jumping off start, particularly if you are already a fan of Massive Darkness. And the really exciting news is you can hear me talk about it all day long, but shortly after the end of this live stream, as we go off, we are going to have the quick start guide available on the campaign page, the preview page, along with the rule book for the core box. Now, these are work in progress, so keep that in mind, but we want to give you an idea of what the core rules look like in their current state, and I've read them, and they look really good. But we also wanted to give you the quick start guide, which is going to get people up and running with the tabletop RPG version of Massive Darkness, and you'll be able to see right away what we're talking about and all of the hard work that we've put into this. So with that, definitely check those out once they're up on the campaign page or the preview page. And let us know if you have any questions about that here in the comments or on the campaign page itself. So let's now, though, go to some Q&A. We're going to take some comments. Hopefully someone has tracked down some comments during the live stream that you can share here live. Nicholas?
Yeah, I saw a comment about someone asking me how the sand timer works and also why is the sand timer included. It actually follows Alex's adage because it's cool. It's a chronomancer. He should have a sand timer. That's why it's there. It's a 1 minute sand timer, so it works perfectly for the game purposes.
Yes, it's used mainly for the chronomancer. During the real-time phase, you use the sand timer to see how much time you have to play that phase.
There's another question here, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot. And like I said, Nick, to you earlier before we started live streaming, you make sure I don't say anything I'm not supposed to. But someone asked in the comments, like previous Massive Darkness campaigns, by the way, this comes from Vintage Bullet, will this game have 1 or 2 variants for each class? Can we speak to that yet? Or should we say stay tuned?
Variants.
I think stay tuned. I
mean, feels like a stay tuned sort of question.
Yes.
All right, Nick, was there any other questions?
I've seen a lot of questions about difficulty beyond what is being presented here, and all I can say to that is same answer as always, stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up. So those of you who really want to turn up your game, it's not only just the call box providing you any difficulty experience, maybe something in the future would too.
This one isn't exactly a question, but I can't help but share this. Ghostmind says, Massive Darkness 2 is my favorite CMON game and top 5 of all my games. So I just wanted to say that. Let's pat ourselves on the back. I mean, I know I'm the new guy, but I'm still going to pat myself on the back too.
It's always great to hear that, right? That's what makes our all the work worth it,
Yeah, that is awesome. And I do have to say, we've embraced the "it's cool" thing so much that I feel like we really need to start using that as the tagline potentially for Massive Darkness in general. It's cool.
Interesting story about the fire giant. Actually, it was originally cut. The artwork was so cool that we brought it back as a returning back a gift. So we're staying true to it's always cool.
And the miniature is amazing with the fire transparent plastic. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It is. I'll ask this question. It's actually bouncing around in my own mind. And again, this may fall into the stay tuned category, but I'll ask it anyway. I assume, will there be some other miniatures that we might see with that same effect included?
David, you have to stay tuned.
I'm just going to keep my mouth shut from this point forward.
But I can show you something from the call box.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's another sneak peek.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've seen that. We've seen that character in some of the trailers. Our teaser trailer that we put out there, I think he appeared for a brief moment. But anyway, those are some of the questions. We'll be on the preview page to answer any other questions, particularly now after we've had this. So please, if you do have any more questions, go to the campaign page, follow the campaign for sure, and share your comments and questions there. And we'll be sure to get in there, particularly over the next few days. We are launching tomorrow afternoon on February 5th. So be sure to follow before then, but definitely come back then to check out the campaign. You'll hear a little bit more detail, or quite a bit more detail, about a lot of the things we talked about here. And then, of course, we'll have more unveiling and unveiling and unveiling. We are planning another live stream for this Friday, so stay tuned for that day and time specifically. We'll announce that as an update and put it on our YouTube channel, where we'll talk a little bit about what's been unveiled during the week, but maybe tease some of the other things and announce some things, so you won't want to miss that. But until then, I think we're just going to sign off and let you watch that beautiful, beautiful trailer one more time. So thanks for joining, everybody, and we'll see you in the campaign.